Now with us, Christiane Amanpour from CNN. How are you, Christiane?
I am very well, and good to be with you.
Well, your husband's been on the show about 78 times, so it's nice to finally complete the family, and we're actually having your child together on the show next week.
Yeah, we got the whole family will be joining us.
We just wanted to complete it. Now, of course, Christiane Amanpour is going to be the host of a PBS documentary, Telling the Truth, the Best in Broadcast Journalism, where they give the DuPont Awards, the silver batons, as it were.
I believe that's at the prestigious Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism.
Where Ben went. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it. First of all, silver batons?
Yeah, it's a little lame.
Isn't it? You have one, so is it like on a trophy case, Christiane, where you're like, hey, that's my silver baton?
Yeah, a couple, actually, I'm very, very proud of, and I don't bring them home. I put them in my office where, my head stays, my professional head, and it's a matter of great pride and prestige, because this is, the creme de la creme, and it's wonderful to not only be part of that, but also to be able to celebrate that and support them. And I'm happy that I'm able to do that in this program that's going to be airing.
Since you have a couple of them, do you and Jamie go running around the house passing them off at all?
Well, you know what? We would probably bonk each other on the heads with them, but as I say, perhaps that's one reason why I don't keep them at home.
Okay. Now, let's talk about what's happening this year in the awards, because something interesting is happening. Public broadcasting is winning 7 out of the 14 batons. Meaning half the awards are going to public broadcasting, and only one network news operation, NBC News, has won an award. And that's rather unusual. Why do you think that is? Is that part of a trend?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's part of a trend. Obviously, every year they select the best, and they obviously found that this year that is where the best laid. I think, though, that it's not a secret that commercial television is under increasing pressure when it comes to news reporting, increasing pressure to, reduce resources and perhaps do things that are slightly less edgy than they used to be. So maybe that's why PBS is able to spend that time and money and an editorial sort of room to be able to do the kinds of things that the panel believes is really excellent. You will notice that the work on the one network that did win, NBC, and Brian Williams and his team from Hurricane Katrina, was really fantastic, really edgy, really important, because it was such a seminal moment for the United States, that hurricane and the aftermath, and really the debacle, and the continuing sad story of New Orleans, that's very, very important. But, for instance, also HBO won for Baghdad ER, where a phenomenal documentary from Iraq was awarded, and it's amazing work, incredible work, and I think you do find that increasingly documentary and off the sort of beaten path work is winning because it's got the space to do the kind of journalism that really matters.
And also, we're talking to, in case anybody doesn't recognize the voice, we're talking to Christiane Amanpour, and Christiane, but isn't that to some extent, first of all, your Baghdad ER is really, it's both hard to watch and you can't stop watching. And I'm glad to see that it won an award. But you're talking about the off the beaten path. Those documentaries, those pieces, they have an independence that it seems like that network news doesn't seem to have anymore.
Well, some do. I mean, look, for instance, and I'm shamelessly putting in a plug for myself,
Sure.
We're still doing that kind of work at CNN. I have a documentary that's airing on CNN USA this weekend about Islam in the UK. So it is still possible, obviously, if you've got a reporter who's committed, if you've got a reporter who's got a good relationship with the network and can convince the network that there are important, really compelling issues that need to go on that are not, perhaps some of these more focus group-oriented
Sure.
things that go on the air quite a lot these days. It's still possible. But it is harder and harder across the media landscape. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I would also say that it would appear that CNN has some greater independence than broadcast network news. That would be my perception anyway, in large part because, and it's great to see that and many of the documentaries you've done are well, there's simply no place for them on network news. They don't have the time. They don't have the, we're not going to preempt Lost and Dateline NBC is unless there's a murder involving spouses. it's simply not going to be on the air. But I want to talk about, obviously, you've been in a number of combat zones, and we're in the middle of this war in Iraq, and we're escalating troops, 21,000 more troops. The administration is using the word surge, and I want to talk to you about the difficulty that you face when you, of course, must realize the extent, perhaps greater than ever before, that the U.S. military is feeding the reporters who are covering this some form of propaganda, yet you still have to include their side in the story, knowing that they're engaging in often deceptive propaganda.
Well, look, to be very honest with you, I feel that my relationship with the military on the ground has been one of mutual respect, and most definitely we get information from them. I don't go in thinking that they're just feeding me propaganda. You know, everybody has their own spin, whether it's the military or politicians or whoever. But of course, it's our job to be able to get beneath that and get behind it. And that's what we do. I mean, that's what journalism is still about, to try to find the truth. That's why this PBS documentary about the DuPont Awards is called Telling the Truth. Going to Baghdad has several, and going to around Iraq has several complications. Not least is the incredible danger. Journalists, as you know, have been targeted or have been killed and wounded in roadside bombs and suicide bombings. And as you know, the civilian population in Iraq has really, really suffered. They have had so many casualties. And the U.S. soldiers, the troops, and all the other people trying to do something there have been under the same kind of physical danger and stress. The other problem, as you say, is getting to the truth. It's always difficult, but that doesn't mean we need to give up trying. We must. And now I think it's as important, if not more important than ever, because as we touched on, our media agenda and our media landscape has really been highly politicized in the last several years, has been flooded with opinion and commentary and activism and ideology, and therefore the space for fact-based reporting is shrinking, but it needs to be defended and it needs to be staked out. And that is where I get my commitment and my motivation, and I stick to that arena. And I think it's an increasingly valuable resource.
Well, let me give you a real-life example here. And we're talking to Christiane Amanpour. She's hosting the PBS documentary, Telling the Truth, the Best in Broadcast Journalism, and that's where they're going to present the DuPont Award winners that Columbia University has selected. Now, in Iran, for example, and we went through this in Iraq, so I want to make sure we get it right in Iran. In Iran, the administration goes out and says Iran is an imminent danger. They could have nuclear weapons within a year or two, or maybe even earlier. Sometimes they say within a couple of months. When every expert says, and including their own reports from coming inside the government, saying that, no, it's actually 10 years. And the IAEA just recently said they actually had a setback, and they won't be able to do it for 10 years. Definitely, but certainly within 5 to 10 years. So when the administration puts out something that you know is pretty much not true, how do you handle that? I mean, do you say the administration says this, even though you know to be pretty much propaganda? Do you say it and then say it's not true? Or do you say, hey, he said, she said, they say this, but the IAEA said that?
I think it's a very, very, very good question, because we did all get caught up in this over the Iraq War. And let me just give you an example. You've given me a real-life example, and I'll give you a real-life answer. If you remember, during the lead-up to the Iraq War, senior American administration officials leaked that the Iraqis were buying aluminium tubes, and that most definitely those aluminium tubes were being used for centrifuges for a nuclear program. Well, that turned out to be untrue. And I broke the news that the IAEA and others did not believe that it was for centrifuges, but it was for conventional weapons, which nonetheless, conventional weapons still broke sanctions, but it was not for a weapons of mass destruction program. And that's the kind of reporting that we have to do. We have to, despite the tide of information and agenda coming from wherever it may be, our job is to continue to rigorously investigate, to be a bulwark against that sort of flow of information, and to simply, keep questioning. That's our job, to keep questioning what's being told to us, not to just go with the flow and roll over. And I think journalists have learned their lesson.
Do you really? I mean, because my first question was not about propaganda given to you from the military. I really meant the administration, and I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. But do you think journalists do you think they've learned the lesson? Because I think things are better than they were 3 years ago. But
well, you
I'm
just
dubious.
said it. I think things are better than they were 3 years ago. I think there's a ways to go still to bring the pendulum back to the center of rigorous, hard, clear-headed, investigative, journalism. But I think that it's happening. I think some of the work that you'll see, certainly all of the work that you'll see rewarded and highlighted on the PBS program and the DuPont Columbia Awards will be that kind of work. But I just think that, look, we have to do this. We have to maintain our position in society, because otherwise we might as well just pack up and go home. If we're just going to be yes people and, lapdogs, then there's no place for us in this society. We don't deserve to call ourselves journalists. And I don't think that's an agenda. That's the facts. Those are the golden rules of our job, and we need to stick to them. And that's where I root myself and where I base myself, in the arena of fact-based journalism, fact-based reality.
Christiane, that's why you won the awards that you have, and that's why people respect you as one of the preeminent journalists, certainly on television and overall as well in the media. But do you ever run into problems at CNN? Because CNN, when I watch them, other than a few reports, and in fact, all the reports coming out of REC I think are terrific. Nick Robertson and Ware, I believe they have there. And their foreign reporting seems to be a lot better. But once you get inside to the U.S. and you get the Wolf Blitzers, et cetera, you get a lot of he said, she said, and they mistake neutrality for objectivity. They think, hey, well, if I say that both sides said this and this, then I'm done, and I don't actually have to bring you the truth. I just have to give you the two sides, which I think is a giant mistake. Do you ever run into that problem where they say, well, look, if you're going to tell us that the aluminum tubes don't exist, then you have to give us the other side and say that other people say they do exist? Or another example, do you run into that problem with CNN at all?
Well, look, you know that my work speaks for itself, and I don't run into that problem because I don't play that game, but I also I'm not going to get into sort of, CNN bashing, because to be frank, I think that CNN is still one of the, last remaining bastions of news, where you can turn to, programs throughout the day and get information rather than opinion and agenda. Obviously, there are some which openly now call themselves opinion-based programs, but I think for the most part you see that it's still a news network, and I think that's really important. But in terms of the issue that you're talking about, I think it's very important to be very clear about what is the reality and how you report it, and that your words have consequences, and how you report something matters. It matters what you say. It matters the questions that you ask. And it mattered in the run-up to the Iraq War, and not enough of it was done. It mattered, for instance, in Bosnia, where we called it like it was. It was a genocide. It wasn't just some ugly little ethnic conflict with each side being equally bad. No, it wasn't. As much as governments wanted to believe it was that, it wasn't, and we said it wasn't, and that had consequences. It eventually brought in an intervention which stopped a genocide and has laid the groundwork for peace ever since. And that's where I am based, and that's what I do, and that's what I believe in.
CNN's chief international correspondent, Christiane Amanpour, she hosts the PBS documentary, Telling the Truth, the Best in Broadcast Journalism, where they'll give out the silver batons for the DuPont Awards at Columbia. Christiane, it was really great talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Young Turks on Air America Radio.